Me roto mai I te iau toka auri, e ka riro katoa te ia, e ngā I noo anga, no te tai au apinga ora o te moana. Te inangaro nei rato, te Moana Minerals Company, kia keri wawe ia te ia toka auri, I muake I te mataiti 2030 e tū mai nei. I nā rā, ko te aronga ki te pakari no te moana, te inangaro nei rato, kia tiaki ana mei te tainga uru, ki te tainga uru marima mataiti. Kia aka papu te kai ia mai e me ka.
Kia ora ana tātou kātou e te iti tangata o te kuka airani e mātakitaki mai ne, e kakaro mai ne tā tātou pia tūtau I roto I te tuatau ne. E te iti tangata ua piri mai e rua tō tātou taiake, e rua tō tātou tupuna, I runga I te mārewa I te komakoma mai e tātou me kora I te arara mai e tātou te tai au manako. No runga I te anganga e tupu mai ra ki Rarotonga. Ko e te ipukari e tumu te waruwaru, e pēra katoa te tuanga anganga tā rao e rawe nei. I rota ia mai e tātou I te atianga nei. No reira te istangata, te tuatau ka oro ngātua ki a rāua. Nā rāua rai e ake te mai e tō rāua ingoa, e pērā katoa tā rāua tuanga, e rawe nei I roto I te tuatau nei.
Kia ora ana. June Hosking here.
No te kia ora ana te tangata ko Andrew Hosking toko ingoa. No te tuanga tāku e toturu atu I te aka korongo te tā ueneo ko June, ko iau te president o te Ipukarea Society. Toturu atu iai I te tei tuanga no te reo Māori I te tumana ko ki mea ia nei te pasirera I te tuatau no te rā toka auri ori te whera tu mō.
Thank you no te ake ki te mai e tō koro e ngoa e pērā katoa I tā koro anganga e rawi ana I roto I te tuatau nei. Thanks June for also joining us today for telling us a little bit about you, and I've just heard that you're also writing books about the seabed minerals about in that's happening in Rarotonga. That's bound to happen, or that is happening, or in the process of happening. Tell us more about the books and also the platform that both of you are doing, please.
Okay, so first of all, the government wants to do mining, right? And we already have 3 mining companies that have exploration licenses in our EEZ, as well as one sponsoring for the Clarion-Clipperton zone, which is just below Hawaii, that area. So we have a part in that as well. Nothing is actually happening with the mining, and that's why one of the things, I have to make that really clear, because there are countries all around the world, 38 countries and a good 1,000 or so scientists and all of us asking countries, asking for a moratorium for 10 to 15 years to allow people time for the scientists that should do the proper research, because we believe this, basically we're not coming back from this if we mess it up. The mining, in fact. So that's why we're doing those reels. And unfortunately, so we live in Mauke, not in Rarotonga. The mining will happen in various places around the Cook Islands EEZ, not actually in Rarotonga. In fact, it won't even be near Rarotonga. We have got very shortly a US research vessel coming to help with some research. There's a Chinese research vessel coming, both in October. Everybody wants to have a look and have a bit. And we unfortunately have that mentality that people think, oh, yay, lots of money. But there's a lot of people and, coming out and saying, no, this is a bad idea. So I just want to get that on the table. That was the reason for us writing the books. So Andrew and I both worked in this. We started this, I'm having real trouble with the camera. I see it's going blurry in and out. We started this near the end of last year and then finally got those into print. Treasures of the Deep and Unbroken. And I'm sorry, I cannot figure out why that's going blurry. So the schools have got the English version. Tauraki Rongo and Tainarungu have done a great job of getting the Māori together. It's not quite there, but we're almost there, ready to print those. We have some already in well, a counsellor in Christchurch bought some and gave it to some of the public libraries, which is nice, but we'd love to be able to put them into the Pacifica section of the libraries around New Zealand and anywhere else. It's just basically, one is a younger children's book, Treasures of the Deep, which really just simply says, yeah, there's treasures. It's not the treasure at the bottom. The whole ocean is a treasure. So it's a very simple. It's just going through, and all pictures of real animals. If I could just figure out why that's going blurry, I'd be able to show you. But anyway, can't. And so there they are. This is that one. It's simple. It's basically saying it's not a desert down there. We need to think about how we protect our biodiversity. The other one is for much older people, really more like high school. And there are teachers' guides to go with it as well, which go into all sorts of things like process of consultations and what have you. And that actually has a little forward in it. We were explaining how we first, when we came to Mokia, how we were living and how that helped us to understand that it's not about me and my environment, it's me inside my environment. We're all part of the same thing. We all need each other. And so this book is really about that, the interconnectedness of life. And this is just in a sort of a poetry form. But that's that. And then the reels, which just started, you just played a part of one, I think. If people look up to Epukarea Society, you'll see, gosh, I think it's only been out for 3 days, but right from day one, so many responses, negative and positive, which is great because exactly what we wanted. We wanted people to get talking, not just leave it to the government. We need to be empowered. Remember, we're the Indigenous people. We're the landowners. The government doesn't, it's not like in other countries, you know, we're unique in the way that the government doesn't own everything here. They don't get to say. They need the majority of islanders to say yes or no. And so understand that. And the best way to do that is to get these messages out in Māori. So I'm going to let Andrew speak about that because that's why I have to rely on my dear happy today.
No dea, me tā tune re ara na kone, te tai tumu te apuka i parani mai i amani ia, i tata ia. No te mea, te eramenga te tamana koanga te toka auri rori takere wa te moana. Karotika o mai ki te kaumani, aka ki te mai ki te ititanga, ko te kare e pākau ora i rori te moana i nā rā. Te ia te ia toka i ara million tāra pātaka raupa mai. Tamana ko anga rātou. I nā rā, ko te rātuanga, kārito tātou ititanga te maramara wānai. Me e tikare ati me ia nurira te taitungu te ia puka. I tata ia ki riro aka kite ki tō tātou ititangata. Tā tātou ano. Ajika te pākau irori i tera takere o te moana. Nā, taira wātu i rira ki runga i te turanga o te o aronga kimi kite. Kite pakari o te moana. Te aka kite nei rātou. Ariana ia bātātu rapu anei kakamata te keri i au toka. No te mea, kare papua ngā tika atika te o pākau i rori i te moana. Te a koroang. Me anga pupinga rea tā rātou orang mai nei ki a tātou i te atuatou me kāri. No rira, i apu tauturu mātāu ti a tamana konga no ti apuka. No te mea, te ere nei giru tei tā tātou api. Te maramara mone ue, ua mataora te tei o tamariki. No te mea, o te au toro anga ero te i au puka, te au tataanga, kare te au manu rori te takere o te mona mea tamana konga. Nā te au scientist eri kimi kite. Nā rātou ki e tingai oke mai. I riro mai rira te au puka i rira i e tuatou. Kairi e reang ki tō tātou i te tangata. Mua ke tātou ka tuku e te tai tikaanga. Ki kite tika e tātou pāpū tika e tātou me kātana, me kāi.
And we have only, like already Moana Minerals has said, they expect to be mining before 2030. And I'm on WhatsApp chats with a number of scientists And there's a group of scientists from Hawaii and the States who have just done a submission for American Samoa's proposal. Impossible Metals want to mine in American Samoa. A lot of people are not happy about that in American Samoa. So these guys, some of them have been like 26 years or more researching in the Clarion-Clipperton zone, so they're not newbies, right, scientists, and they've put together this report. It just goes through so many things that we have to consider and worry about, and I learned from some of them, like there are some tests that they've put down, and now the only way to see the impact of them is to give it time, and you can't speed that up. So in other words, they've set a test. Now they need those years to see what happens. And there's no way around that. This is where this idea of starting mining before 2030 is absolute nuts. So they will, and scientists will tell you that. I haven't heard anybody say, yeah, I'm certain we're ready. Some of them, our own people, have said, oh, well, we know we don't have enough data, but we feel like we can sort of wing it and adapt as we go. That's the sort of impression they're giving, but this isn't one of those situations. Already, like 50 years ago was the first test. I've actually got footage which we will put out eventually on reels, like one a week, of different test sites that have been done all the way going back to 50 years ago to ones that were only done a few years ago. So there's been about 11 different big areas that have been tested and cleared to see what will happen. And even the oldest, even the one that's 50 years old, has no sign of recovery. And in this report that the scientists have sent for the American Samoan process, they're saying that maybe 100 years for recovery in that area, but also that's just a big, huge maybe. And keep in mind that anything that was dependent on the nodules will never come back because the nodules are not there. Okay, so in other words, they're finding 50 to 70% of the life is dependent on the nodules, the life they're finding, even if it's just for part of their life. So you take something that has a stage in its life cycle where it's a larvae, and when it's in that stage, it hides in the rocks, and it's how it's protected until later on it comes out, and then it doesn't need the nodule, but a part of its life it needs it. Other things, they need the nodules all the time. So these scientists that are coming, I had a chat. I got to be, which was an honor, to invited to have a talk with the guys who are coming from the States on the research vessel, and I asked them, please, when you come, would you please come with the premise in your mind that the nodules have a purpose? Let's find what their purpose is first, right where they are. Let's start from that point. Let's look at the biology. Let's think of that intersecting, overlapping line that's called life that involves all of us.
No te mga comments o ta kuno ngai te toka auru ki kapiki ano polymetallic nodules no te mea te tuato me papu te ego one te o scientist me ka kiri mo di au toka ati ke the impact, the negative impact ka riro mai ki tō tātou aorangia. Ia tātou jikia te o Enua nei te Pacific. No te mea ko te ao toko auri, gare uki e tirunga i te Enua, tirori te takerewa te mono. O tātou rau ki te o Enua ero te Pacific. O tātou ka tai i te epinga me e uaki. Gare ue karanga nei, no te mea gare ue ari ki ane ki a ara tō tātou gao mani ka kiri me rātou di epinga ka roko mai billion tāra na tātou. Are we in again I did Yaku Korgere Ratoka Kitranga Irori to Mona Kia Kimi Mata Yatura Gie, Michkara Gie, oxygen that Ammonia Mini Yatoka Irorite Takiro to Mon. Mata Rato Tato, it's not a Karanga way to Kowi the Maram. What do you mean? What Karanga with the Eronga, Arepa Andrew, not the mere. Are tano e dia tokai ka roko ia te oxygen i te amani mai rene mea. e pūrā kaure. I nā rā i te etu atau, e rua tū ki te pakariti, ki te nei mai, o iaugi, e ere angarea tā te pūrā ko i te amani i te oxygen, e perakato, ia toka aurira rui te moana. Karanga i rira, me te tai i tunga uru, ki te warunga uru patene, o te o tā tātu i uti nea, o iaugi te oxygen ia, amani mai nā te moana. Nora mai te takere o te moana. I nā rā, me tā kore e karanga nei, tamātou rea karanga nei, te o waronga e karanga nei, ka arati a manoko, ko i te toka auri i te manoko mita, kia research ia, kia kimi o onu i atu, pene e me te tai a karanga tenga uru, i ruanguru mataiti, paeri re, papu mita ki mairi re, e kua tano rea wiki a tāmanako anga e, kia kirisi ia mai ti a toka auri, no raro mai te moana. I agora, kare trai te manoko mita, no te mea, o tākou i ka ruru i te etu atau, o te uki a muri ake, o rātou ka kokotia, me tarao ki ena tia bunga. Ariri rau ki te rira, ka kape e te uki a muri ake te katantono ngai tia tarao ki. No te mea, kere au ki te e rauri te takere te moana, kere te pūra hapo runga te. Toko maanga no mana kua, paramana moana.
And just on that, so you've got the nodules. They have shown that they make oxygen. They don't know yet to what extent that matters, whether that's supplying for that ecosystem down there or higher up. This is all things that need years to research. But it's not only that, then you've got phytoplankton, which is reme riki, I guess you'd say, teeny tiny plants that live in the sunlit area, which is up to the top 200 meters of the ocean. They are plants. They use photosynthesis. They need the sun to do that, and they produce oxygen. And here's something to really think about. In the Pacific, now keep in mind, trees and plants make oxygen, but because a tree is really big and its design and it uses that oxygen as well. So it produces oxygen, it uses most of it as well to make for its own growth and healing, for all the same processes that we need oxygen for. A tree needs it, right? A phytoplankton, this teeny tiny plant in the ocean, is only a single cell. It produces oxygen, but it hardly needs much. So in fact, in the Pacific, I was reading recently, it could be up to 80% of our oxygen that we're breathing is actually coming from the ocean, not from land. So this is serious. And you've got, they're already stressed with the acid, ocean acidification, temperature rising with climate change, and pollution. Phytoplankton don't do well in plastic rubbish and pollution. So they're already finding areas where it's dying. It's an absolute madness to think we should add to this. We need to take away the stress, not add another stress. If you start to have spills or any sort of plumes happening near the top of the ocean, you're going to stuff up an oxygen making machine that we all need.
Me taki mātou.
No te
Sorry. Yep.
Noko te manga manako tauturu no runga i tia o tā tātu e uti nea. No te mea, e runga i te tomato inua i guni i mauki. Karongorongo nao i te o mitua pakari me, ara ana rātou te tātou mua. Me maki punge ere te tangata. Tari i maina ki tai nei te pētātai. Karanga u rātou me pai mai ki tātai nei te pētātai era, tiriro ki te o Karero rau ki rātou i manako ana no e mai tia o i tanga i era mai tara oxygen. Na i tia tuatau ki re ka papu i mai te o scientist ia o tara oxygen. Norto mai te mōne tanga i amani mai raro. Paina mai ki runga. Pupu i mai re ki uta me re no re au ki te waranga maki i te tuatau mua. Me te ki ana tuma. Manako o tauturu atara.
Thank you. Our sun is starting to set, so you'll notice it's getting darker and darker. We're outside.
Thank you so much for all the beautiful words of encouragement, and also with the beautiful work that you both do. E rawene koro i te anganga me taki i te aka ki te karere ki tā tātou ānau pērā katoa e te warataki o te kaumani e tō te enua no runga i te anganga tau tā korua e inangaro nei ki a tupu no tātou te istangata kuki airani e noo nei i te tuatau nei. No te airanga mana ko te mānia te aka i te kai i tā korua nganga e rawi ana i roto i te tuatau nei. Just to wrap up our little karangaranga, any words of encouragement or any comments or feedback, or just to wrap us up on what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I have a request because soon we will get the books printed in Māori, which and Kōrero Oro is paying for that and distributing them to the schools in the Cook Islands. But I'm well aware that there's absolute thousands of Cook Islanders overseas who would appreciate perhaps having those. Like I say, we're trying to figure out how we could afford to print some and then sell them to the libraries that want them. It's a bit tricky because we need to print ahead. So we're working on that. But, you know, there are difficulties. If anyone's got any ideas of how we could do that or how we could distribute. Right now, the English version is available via Amazon, but they're really terrible as far as any royalties come back to us. And really, this isn't about fundraising or anything. This is simply to get the message out there. So people are interested, maybe contact Te Pukarea Society and you have ideas of how we could make this work so that it goes beyond just our schools here.
Tōku manako penga, manako tauturu atu, pati anga napu, pati neo ki tō tātou i te tangata. I Nutrieni, Australia, Ieni au katoa, no runga i te tumu manako o te polymetallic nodules, kimkimi mita koto i tō koto manako, ia koto ariki ue, me karamai ta kaumani mea pirian tāra e rari te mea karoko mai nā tātou, oranga mita ki tō tātou, ia koto ia kachiko. Kimkimi mita ki, ui te uianga, miti e te tai uianga, aka ki te mea koe, no ea wai te scientist nane karanga mai kia koe, anganga mita ki tia, me kare, kimkimi mita ki tātou e te istangata e tō tātou manako, i teo kimi ki te ere nei no roto i te takere o te mona, i mua ke koe rera ka oke rera i ta au, tukua ngā tika ai kare, ora, katukura au kare. Thank you, mata.
Me taki kore reka no tēnā o me manako mānea, au manako te patianga, e te istangata tēnā te patianga ere tūna, no te tauturu ia te mitua no tātou, no te kārianga, no te paimai anga i te manako e riro e tauturu i tō tātou i pukaria kuki airani e roto i te tuatau nei. No reira, ka tuku o te ngā mitua kia aere, te opua tūra te rā i te enua mauke, e rina ki anga e taime ropa kaputi teia no rāua, no reira i te istangata, tēnā te manako, tēnā katoa tā rāua ina ngorora, ia tātou kia tauturu atu, ia tātou kia rawi, no tātou te istangata kuki airani i te tuatau nei. No reira, thank you ngā o te ngā mitua, korua te piri mai runga tā tātou porokaram pimo no, ka tuko ia korua kia aere, e kā riro nā te tō tātou istangata kuki airani, e kakaro mai, e akarongorongo mai, e te toenga o tō tātou porokaram i roto i te atang nei. No reira, me akia koutou, kia orana rau.